Hello, it's Ren, and today I wanted to go over what my daily tarot routine is, if I guess you could call it, because I do some of the same activities on a daily basis, or I at least try to. Sometimes it is energy dependent. If I'm not doing well in a slump, I usually do slack on, one aspect or another of this. I usually try to at least pull one card a day, but when I'm feeling good enough, this is what I do most days. And so I'm recording this so I can see how it changes in the future because I'm always interested in that sort of thing. So I guess I would say the first thing is, oops, bumping my camera there. I have about like 4 decks out that I try and use pretty regularly. And the first thing would be a tarot deck, whatever tarot deck I've kind of chosen for that month as a daily card pull. And for this month, I'm doing the Heaven and Earth Tarot, which interestingly enough ends up, it's actually like a Thoth mixed with the RWS imagery. So the imagery is really almost directly what you would see in the RWS. But the words are often very like Thothy, I guess you could say. And it's embarrassing, but I actually didn't notice that. At first, I just thought it was like an RWS clone, Abandoned Success instead of Eight of Cups, um, and Strife instead of the Five of Pentacles. And I didn't notice it because when I first used it for maybe like I want to say like a week and a half, I only pulled. Um, what's funny is I keep landing on these minor arcana, but like for the first week and a half, I was only pulling court cards and major arcana, which is crazy. Like, what are the odds of that? So I didn't even notice until I actually sat down to read through the guidebook, which ideally that's what I like to do before I start really working with the deck. I mean, you can pull out any deck and just work with it willy nilly, but if there's one that I want to kind of keep out for a month, then I like to read the introductory material, like the stuff that comes before or after the card meanings, just so that I can like learn about the deck, learn what it's intending to do. And yeah, if I had done that, I would have seen that it blends the images of the Waitsmith system with the Thoth deck and interpretations. So, but that was a fun surprise, but I've actually ended up really liking it because I've kind of put off learning other systems and just kind of stuck to the RWS because I like it and I'm comfortable-ish with it, and I still feel like I have a lot to learn. But this is such an easy way to get into it because the imagery is exactly what you would expect. Really the only difference is, what keywords they're putting with it. So this has honestly been an accidental great introduction. So this is also what I've been intending to do with my guidebooks. I don't store them together. I don't care about the giant boxes that they come with, so I just store the deck separately and keep the book out on like a bookshelf. So I want to make like little, marks for when they have helpful um, things that I could reference even when using other decks, right? Just like general information type stuff. So I just want that available if it would be handy with other decks too. So that's kind of something I'm trying to do. But anyway, I want to say for maybe like 1.5 years, 2 years maybe, almost, I guess it's been now, I would just do a single card draw. Like I would literally just pull one card and think, what's the energy for today? What should I strive for today? Just really basic stuff. And I've always been really happy doing that. I think maybe because I switch decks so often, or, because I have so many decks, so I never get tired of doing that because enough variety for me is provided by using a different deck all the time. But I tried this out the other day and really liked it. So what I do now is I'll draw it. The first card I drew today was the Queen of Swords. So that would be, what sort of day should I expect? What's the energy of today? How what should I be prepared for today? And I got, okay, well, this is gonna be a Queen of Swords day. Well, all right, I've got my usual interpretation of that in my head. Maybe we should cut through some bullshit. Maybe we want to be really straightforward and attack things head on, right? Now, I also draw two additional cards, so it ends up being a 3-card draw. And this might be something that everyone does or is really common. I actually think there's one variation where people draw like their card and then they'll say, okay, well, what will help me with that? And what will hurt me in that goal? So this is honestly really close to that variation, I think. But what I think when I'm drawing the second card to the left here, I think, how am I cutting this card short? How am I what what little thing am I missing out on to not really fully appreciate what this card might mean for me today, or how I'm viewing it or interpreting it. And honestly, the first time this happened actually today, I got the Justice card here, and I thought this was actually an indication that I'm pretty spot on in how I feel when I see the Queen of Swords and how I interpret it. We've got another woman here with the sword vertical, really mimicking this. We've got the balancing act here. We've got fairness, ideas of justice, and that's very similar to the Queen of Swords and her like insightfulness, her directness, that sort of thing. So I actually feel like I was getting an indication that, you know what, I'm pretty spot on. And then when I pulled, like, how can I do better to appreciate the Queen of Swords? Like, how can I really converge my understanding to get to the right spot when I'm thinking about this card for the day? I pulled the Tower. So honestly, I read that as an indication that I can do what I would usually do if I'm thinking about the Queen of Swords and do it more. Be more ruthless. Cut out more dead weight. Cut out more bad habits. Put up with less bullshit. So I thought that was a really interesting variation that I got on this today, and it's really um, it's it's very focused on this main card, and I really just use it to literally kind of converge my understanding of where I'm going with this. So to give you another example of how I would do this reading, the other day I pulled the Ace of Pentacles. So the Ace of Pentacles I think of as, a really energetic, um, you know, I feel like that sort of card comes around when I'm going to have a really great day. I'm feeling really motivated. I'm definitely going to use my planner. I'm going to use whatever tools I have available for getting chores done, getting things done, checking some things off my list, really kind of getting the ball started on things. But what was weird was yesterday I was the day where I was affected by the COVID vaccine. So I had gotten that this winter, just because we're going into the winter season. I don't know if there's still a ton of cases in my area, but like, I don't know, I don't want to be the cause of some vulnerable person getting it. So I went ahead and got it, and as expected, it was kind of ruining my day. I felt really tired, lethargic. I felt like I'd been run over by a steamroller, so physically I wasn't very energetic. And so I was like, oh, okay, I don't know about that. I'm not foreseeing this being a very productive day. And when I pulled the second card, it was the Queen of Pentacles. And so when I pulled that one, I thought to myself, if that's a way where I'm kind of shortchanging this Ace of Pentacles card, maybe when I'm looking at that ace, I'm always thinking of it as things that will come to me rather than things I can do for myself. So, the Queen of Pentacles is an image where she's sitting and holding that pentacle. And I really got the kind of flash, or just kind of popped into my head that the way that I was shortchanging the Ace of Pentacles on that day was seeing it as a day where I sit back and I enjoy good things, right? Like I enjoy the energy that I already have, the motivation that's already been built up. Things are kind of on a roll on their own, that sort of thing. Whereas maybe it was asking me like, hey, maybe even when you're not having a great day, you can have an Ace of Pentacles day by doing just the best that you can. Doing the things that you need to do just to get through your day, even if it's just, you know, literally make your meals, go to bed on time, take a shower, take care of yourself, tidy up a bit, just so that your next day is a little bit better. Maybe that's enough of a little seedling for you to go out and plant to make sure that you have better days in the future. And when I pulled that third card, to again, I'm just trying to like, figure out how I want to read that second card and see how I can maybe adjust it a bit to get at the right even keel for this card. The one on the right was actually justice. And so that really kind of confirmed with me that, I think of justice as being a little bit stricter, as being a little bit more, you really need to balance things out. So when I was waking up that morning and thinking, oh, I'm so tired, I'm just going to lay in bed today, I'm just going to scroll, which I know is bad for me because it affects me mentally in a not well way. I need to be more discerning and maybe push myself a bit harder and say that, okay, well, I'm not having a great day, I'm not going to accomplish much, but I'm still going to do the things that I can do. And once I was like, I saw those, I was really inspired to get up and get moving. So I was like, all right, well, I'll at least start with a good breakfast and see where that takes me. I'll at least try and do what I can to get through the day. And I really felt my energy building as I went through the day. And by the end of the day, I felt really great, like a lot better than I would have if I had laid around kind of feeling sorry for myself when I was feeling ill. And it did end up being a day that really felt like Ace of Pentacles overall. I was surprised. So overall, I've really enjoyed doing these sorts of readings. I think it's really helped me gain further understanding of the daily pull card and ways that it can be, pulled in one direction or another. And I feel like I've gotten more insightful readings this way. So that's probably what I'm going to stick with. So I've got the daily card, what's the day going to be like? What's the day's energy? How are things going to go today, I suppose? How do I usually tend to shortchange this card or interpret it a little bit incorrectly or softly? And then, how could I view this card in the future to be more true to its nature type thing? So I don't know. I've just found it to be very interesting and it's worked well. So I'm going to continue doing it for quite a while, I believe. Okay, so that's my daily draw that I do with the with my daily tarot. I totally forgot to mention that when I do want to work with a deck for a while, I like to do a deck interview. I actually got this one from the Oracle I'm about to show you. I'll probably stick with it or some variation of it. I like to do a deck interview and I'll put it in the front part so that I can see it whenever, like first thing whenever I go to grab a deck. If it has its own deck interview type spread in here, I would fill it out in the book and then write it on here that it's already done and that it's within. As you can tell, I don't purchase things to resell them in the future. I intend to keep these things, so we'll see. I'm definitely ruining them all for resale. And so for this deck, I found that it was, and it's really how it's worked out. So I think this is really accurate. It's sturdy, reliable, supportive. It can push pretty hard actually, and not super great on the self-care side of things. And it's best to use when it's okay to be pushed. Works as a teacher, and that is how I found it. It's a very strong deck. The other deck I usually do like a daily oracle pull as well. That's the second thing I do is a daily oracle pull. And I was doing just this, the Seasons of the Witch, Mabon or Mabon, I'm not sure how that's pronounced, one for right now, which does work as a daily oracle pull. If you're just pulling one and you're like, hey, what should I consider for the day? What should I think about? This is a really good one because there's a lot going on in the images, and there's a lot, it gives you this little phrase as well. And the guidebook is actually also very detailed. It'll give you sometimes like a little ritual to do. Like this one's got some cider here. And it gives you quite a bit of material. and even, like recipes or something to do often. So, I think it's a really thorough oracle for that. But here's the thing, I really like that these are seasonal, and I'm very tempted to just use these, but I don't want to only use these because, well, I have a lot of oracles, so I don't want to only be using the one that's in season. Um, so I think I'm going to keep using these as more of, I guess I would call it a play deck. And what I mean by that is, um, well, I'm going to link an Instagram account that talks a lot about this concept, about the concept of incorporating play in your life and how important that is. And one of the things that, this woman, Rachel, she's located in Detroit, so she's kind of local to my area. One of the things that she is really a proponent of is creating like a playlist for you, for yourself each season. Like, what fun things do you want to do that season? And it could be something like, if you're thinking about fall, which it is right now where I'm at, maybe you could make seasonal recipes, pumpkin spice and apple cider, going to a haunted house or watching a spooky movie, making tea. It's cold out. It's nice to have a warm drink. Um, going out and foraging. The mushrooms are out, the nuts are out, looking for dried leaves and dried sticks, going to visit a cranberry bog, just going out for a walk in the woods when it's foggy and a little spooky. So these work very, very well as a play deck if you're looking for suggestions for seasonal activities. So obviously it's got more and things beyond that, but these I could even think of as seasonal rituals, like seasonal playful witchy things to do. Gathering with your coven, gathering with your witchy friends, or just friends in general. It's good to have social activities, right? So I am really into that idea, and I'm really bad at making my own playlist. I keep intending to do it. I've intended to do it for like 2 years, but I won't. Like, I just won't do it. I don't know why. Um, so I kind of want to use this as incentive to just get out and enjoy the season, or just think really seasonally, because I think that's important in keeping yourself grounded in the present moment. Like, I think the weather and nature is just really foundational for that. So I only have like two of these right now. I've ordered the Samhain one, and that's on the way. So I'll have that one soon. But I do eventually want to get all of them as the seasons roll around. And then I'm going to shuffle them once at the beginning of when I start using them. And then daily after that, I'll just pull one, right? And kind of think of something, seasonal or seasonal related that I want to do that day or focus on that day. Or even if it's just making some plans, because some of them would require some planning ahead. So like corn maze, I actually want to make a plan with some friends or family members to go out to um, there's a bunch of farms in my area that do corn mazes, or like festivals, like autumn festivals. So, I'm probably going to pop out to one of those. Even though I can't do that immediately today, I can still, take a walk out in the dried grasses, the prairies. I can still enjoy something with pumpkin, or just make something with a fall squash, or, bundle up in a cute hat and coat, do my hair today, So there's a lot going on in the imagery. And I like that this really encourages a very grounded seasonal approach. So I think that's how I'm going to use them. They'll be more of an addendum and not my sole oracle that I'm using for each like daily pull. But I will be pulling one of them a day. It's just, I feel like this is something I'm going to pull out every time the season comes around, and I'm going to want to, I love the art on them. So I want to use my other oracles as well. So that's the use I'm kind of assigning to these ones. So this was my card for the day from this oracle, and here's the title of it. if I didn't show it before. And I do the same thing with oracles that I'm using. I did a deck interview guide. And yeah, this is just a really kind and supportive deck when I did that reading. Just wholesome goodness, okay? And it also had a bunch of spreads. So, doing these various spreads is probably something that I'll do. I'll talk about spreads later on. But if the books that I'm working with have spreads, I do want to use those during the time when I'm working with those decks, right? Okay, and so because I've decided to use this as more like a seasonal, a play, um, get grounded in nature type deck, and I'll continue to do that with those Seasons of the Witch oracles. This is more of a daily draw, right? Ignore the dust on it. I tried putting that, what's it called, the embossing powder to make it shuffle better, but they're never really going to slip. They're just too sticky for that, so you can still see the dust all over them. I don't really care though. Only for video purposes. It still shuffles well though. The gilding's really messed up. But I feel like that just makes it look like I've used it a lot, so I don't mind at all. This is the Wild Mystic Oracle. I really keep hitting this thing. Okay. And all of the images are, you can see they're like black and white, some gold accents, and they're just various animals. This is definitely a book that I'm going to leave out in my symbology, my animal guide area of my bookcase, because really it's literally that. Each one is an animal, and each page kind of talks about what they mean, what they stand for. So today's was the frog, which is on 56. And it's all about healing, right? So it's got some correspondences here and what it may mean in a reading. So I think this oracle may be used best as a clarifier. It's not really, it doesn't really have any messages for you in and of itself, perhaps, other than to consider healing as a general concept, right? But this is talking about like hope, recuperation, that sort of thing. Maybe even fertility and creation. But that's more of a general, so it's a little bit more of a quickie, something quick to pull and think about during the day, and maybe use to complement my daily tarot card, right? So if we're talking about the Queen of Swords and we're thinking about her cutting out unnecessary things, yeah, you can see even this Queen of Swords is more ruthless than you would see in a lot of decks because she's got a severed head right there. But you would think about, how cutting out those useless parts or those dead parts can be linked with healing, right? Okay. So, and the last deck that I would work with, and I just want to say that any of this stuff that I'm doing can take as short or as long as is wanted, because on days when I'm rushing or behind or just, I didn't save enough time for this in the morning, because I really like to do the previous things that I talked about in the morning. Maybe I'm pulling them and just going with my intuition for what they mean. But if I really have time, I really enjoy getting into the guidebook and going through the meanings and really contemplating that stuff. And if any of the oracles suggest like a ritual or something to do for that day, I like to plan then for how I'm going to incorporate that, right? This is the other deck that I will have another tarot deck that I work with during that month often. I'll use it for spreads, and spreads I usually do later in the day. Sometimes I'll do them at lunch, but I usually do them sometime in the evening, just because I don't want to do, I want to really contemplate and consider the cards that I pulled in the morning. So I'm not trying to do so much that I'm not giving enough time or consideration to the things I did before, right? So I like to spread it out a little bit. And this isn't a hard and fast rule. Because I do have a lot of decks, what I have kind of leaned towards is for my daily pull, where I'm only going to be dealing with one, or with my method, 3 cards. I'm fine with having something where there's more to go through. Like, this isn't the biggest book, but there are a couple sections, there's different correspondences, there's questions I like to think about sometimes. Um, and that's for the minors and the majors. So usually I specifically pick decks with large guidebooks for my daily draw purposes because I want to study them. Then for spreads, when I'm going to be laying out, 5 to 13 cards, I'll just pick one that's got more of a dinky guidebook. Like, this is the Tarot of Mystical Moments, and it basically has no introductory material. It goes right into card meanings, and that's it. And you just get small descriptions. So even if I was feeling really lost and felt the need to look up the meanings for all of the cards in the spread, it would still be fine because it's like, there's there's not much, right? And even for this deck, I did the deck interview again, and yeah, so it's actually kind of an interesting mix with the Heaven and Earth Tarot, because the other one's more like a really stern, hardcore, you know, full force ahead, right? Full speed ahead type deck. And this one's just a very generous, kind, um, yeah, kind one. I did find really interesting this month, Best Way to Work with You, the Devil. And I got the same exact card, Best Way to Work with You, the Devil, on this one, which I thought was crazy. I knew immediately that what it was trying to say to me was that I have bad habits that I resort to when I am stressed or anxious, and it's things like overeating or doom scrolling or messing up my sleep cycle, just not working out, not taking care of myself. And I really felt very strongly that these decks were telling me, when you feel that, pull a card. Like, do more work with the tarot, do the journaling, because a lot of times doing these routines prevents me from doing that thing because it's already got me in a contemplative mood. I'm thinking about what works best for me, what helps me and what doesn't, what hurts. So it's really, I just thought that was really like kind, a card that is often so scary. That's about giving in to your kind of worst impulses a lot of the times. And I really felt very strongly that these decks this month were just telling me, you know, so use this instead. And I liked that a lot. So, yeah. As for where I would get a spread, like I mentioned before, sometimes the books of the decks that I'm working with that month will have spreads in them. And if so, I like to play around with those. But really, honestly, I have a ton of books. This is one that I use a lot. It's just a book of spreads by Sasha Graham. And I really enjoy them. I want to encourage people to do silly ones, right? Like the one that I was going to do today it's a pretty like, straightforward, like usual journal prompts. It's about time management, which isn't like a silly topic, but I think it's important to do ones that are goofy, right? Right? Because like that's kind of a way of playing around with your deck, and you can honestly get some really interesting readings from them. I should do a video on just doing silly spreads and the insights that you get from them. Like I did one about zombies the other day. Absolutely foolishness, the deck was definitely telling me that I was not in shape enough to run away from zombies, which made me laugh. But I also had some really insightful results about relationships. Like, what would you do in certain circumstances? What would be, what would be hardest for you in those difficult circumstances? And just, I think you kind of loosen up. If you're talking about something silly, your guard lowers a bit. And so sometimes the cards can really kind of surprise you. Yeah, I didn't shuffle that well. But, sometimes the cards can just really surprise you when you're not focused on keeping things a secret, even from yourself, right? And sometimes when you're doing serious spread contents, I think there's an aspect of pretentiousness, maybe, where you want to put on a good face, or you really want to have deep philosophical thoughts, and you're not thinking that if you're doing a spread called "Should I Go and Join the Circus?" Right? You're just having fun. You're relaxed. Yeah. So I just wanted to say, don't discount silly spreads. I think that can absolutely be a valuable and fun thing. Like, you want your deck to have fun too, right? It can't always be telling you the meaning of life. Okay, so I think I will go ahead and pull the cards for this spread, and just so you can kind of see how I interpret them. And again, this is another thing where it can take, you pull the cards and spend 2 minutes thinking about it, or you pull the cards and you look up the definition of each card and you really contemplate it, or maybe you've recently read about ways of interpreting spreads that deal with what direction the people are looking, or how many of each suit you've got, or whatever, and so you're practicing adding those factors into your reading. You can do that. I know I went to get a professional tarot reading done at my local store, and she didn't lay that many cards. It was maybe 12 or 15, and she talked for a really a really long time about that, right? Sometimes I get like one one takeaway point, and I consider it good, and I go, like, you don't feel like you have to spend forever on them, right? Like, I don't know. Sometimes I think people intimidate themselves away from doing spreads when you can just lay them out, take what you get and go, right? You don't have to do the full evaluation every day. It's important to use your cards, right? That's the important part. It's just getting your cards out and using them. Okay, so just a reminder of what these cards were that I'm going to be pulling, and I'm probably going to do a time skip to where it's laid out. Okay, so I've got my deck laid out here. I don't think I'm going to need this. This was more something that I needed at the beginning, but I just want to say, if you have trouble when you're doing spreads remembering what's what and getting confused, I would actually just take some stones, and I think I used, I don't know, maybe it's like some sort of gel pen or something, some sort of art pen, I don't even know. And these are just like rocks that I found at the beach and had laying around. As you can see, I like picking up little green ones. But you can always just put a rock on, like, where the number is that you're working with. So I don't think I'll need this. But I found it really helpful when I first started, because I was always messing up like what question I was on and what card it was, because I'm always doing different ones where the form changes all the time. So if you struggle with that, just get a little something that's numbered and put it on the card that matches up with the question, and then I think that really helps. Okay, so the first question was, how can I work less and achieve more? And we've got the Tower. So it's a little bit disheartening, but I do think it's saying something about the way that I've structured things right now is not conducive to working less and achieving more, right? Like, I haven't set up things efficiently within either my personal routines or my routines at work to reach that goal. So being willing to look at the structure of what I've put together and how I tend to do things, and being willing to rearrange would be really helpful. And this isn't really a scary card necessarily in this sense, because I know what I need to do is delegate more. Like, I need to finish training up my underlings and have them doing my job so that I'm free to do other more important things at this point and what needs to be done in my job. So it's not really that frightening. I just don't want to do it. But I need to. I know that I need to. The next question is, what do I want to spend my time doing? And that's 2. So as you can see, I was almost reaching for this one, but 2 is up here. Maybe I did need the rocks, who knows? Okay, so to the Hanged Man, I do enjoy looking at things from different perspectives, like learning new things, um, hanging around. I love bird watching, things like that. Um, so I think that's kind of what it's talking about. I do also love dressing like this, so I like wearing nice clothing. So more fanciful pursuits, I suppose, is how I would interpret getting this card in that point. So what I need to do is fix things, break them down. What I want to do, hang around with princess music playing in the background. The next question is, what will I regret doing? This is actually related to this, and I know it's about work because I pulled this the other day in a reading with almost the exact same meaning. This is, to me, I'm going to read this at this particular time as doing the minutia work instead of the overarching things that I need to do, like getting sucked into hyper focusing on a task that I could train someone else to do and spending all my time on that instead of the big picture, like organizational items that I need to do. So obviously I'm very into this. These are both the same, it's like a dreamy, fun work where I'm alone, left alone to my own devices to do little things that I like to do that are neat and tidy and fun and pretty, but not the best for freeing up my time, right? So I basically, the phrasing of the question was, what will I regret not doing? And it's looking at the big picture, stepping back from this detail work, right? So you can see readings are very, you don't have to go with the strict by the book meaning, and sometimes it's just something that pops out based on what the imagery is. Yeah. For what is my biggest time suck? So I'm gonna say this is probably, for me in this question, because it's phrased in negative, it's probably gonna be strength reversed. And since nothing in the picture is really popping out at me, I think that it's gonna be something within the meaning of the card itself. So we're gonna go to strength reversed. And I don't bother, I know when I'm dealing with a reversal, I don't bother letting the cards reverse themselves, right? If that makes sense. That's just how I handle it. I read reversals, but I just read them when they apply, right? Like, I don't know how to explain that. Okay, so submissive, lacking self-control, and impatient. I would say that is probably what this card is trying to say to me. Like, that's my biggest time suck. Is not taking control of various situations, including my own like willpower, my own time, how I use my own time, and just being kind of, oh, well, I guess it'll change when it changes, instead of, taking control like the strength card would advocate for, because this is what I don't have in a lot of senses, right? So yeah, I think that is probably a big time suck for me. Doom scrolling all the time instead of getting things done, I suppose. How can I change my behavior? So here we've got the Page of Swords, which is interesting because the Queen of Swords was my card for the day, which is saying, trying to be really incisive and cutting out the bullshit, that sort of thing. And now we've got the Page of Swords for how can I make these changes in my life, right? And we've actually got, I usually think of, I'm most familiar with the Page of Pentacles. I'm confident interpreting that one. I'm not very good with all of the court cards in general. The Queen of Swords I like, and I usually know that one off the bat because I associate myself with the Queen of Swords in a lot of ways. Um, in my personality, not with cutting out bad habits, as you can see from this spread. But the Page of Swords, this one's interesting because he does have a pile of books here. And he's even got like the graduation gown and cap on, which makes me think of scholarly activities and things like that. So I'm not great with the court cards. I'm going to go ahead and look up the definition for that. And then, yeah, see, we've got like a dandelion here, which indicates like spreading seeds. So maybe spreading feelers out to see what various things would work and be good for you, and maybe further learning. But yeah, let me see what this one says in the book. Page of Swords. Yeah, here we go. Okay, so this one, yeah, we do have this one as expansive ideas, reason, insight, and integrity. Inquisitiveness, personal growth, honorable goals. Okay, so I think this would be referring to continuing to, read things about habit forming, about, uh, um, I've been reading certain like self-help books about, around my eating problems and just like general like motivation and kind of self-helpy topics. I just kind of want to read some of the top books in that genre, see if I can get some good habits in place. And I think this is encouraging me to continue doing that and also to put them into action. I really feel like swords are kind of actiony cards, so it's not just telling me to read those things, but maybe once after I get through a chapter or something, put out feelers, try things, see what works and see what doesn't. Not just reading, of course. I'm a little curious because this sounds so similar to the Page of Pentacles. This is something that I would do, is I'd be, oh, well, let's see what they say for Page of Pentacles. Just being a little curious about other cards, even if they're not in your spread, just about learning more about tarot as you go, right? Okay. New projects. Yeah, so that's really interesting. Usually I think of the Page of Pentacles as the scholarly, bookish one, and they don't really have that here. They've actually really only got, scholarship mentioned in the Page of Swords. So unless I'm getting that mixed up, that's interesting. So that's a difference for that deck. And the next question is, should I create a routine? And I got the most yes of all the possible yes cards. Tarot really makes me laugh. So many decks are always bullying me into being a better person, and that's why I do this. The next question. And then the next question is, what will help me do so? And we've got the Four of Swords. I think that this, for me personally, is representing a good sleep schedule. I feel like that's very important to me. It makes a huge difference in the energy that I have during the day, and how positive I feel, how motivated I feel, how likely it is that I'm going to keep up with, exercise, cleanliness, food, those life basics that I feel like everyone else has down and I'm just struggling with. But I feel like going to bed on time is the biggest one. So I think this is just reiterating that for me. Okay, so what help is available that I am overlooking? And I got the Judgment card. I don't know why, but I really go, ugh, like I just cringe every time I get the Judgment card, no matter what deck. I just don't like it. And it's so weird because you know, just the image of the card, you know, especially if you're looking at the regular Rider Waite with the people rising up and it's really just about a call to action type thing, you'd think I would really like that card. I guess I just hate the word judgment, right? Right? Um, so I think this is probably, you know, taking into mind how this deck is probably speaking to me, because I feel like your decks know you as well and they know how you interpret things. So, you know, that's another thing. When you're I wouldn't be intimidated by spreads because I don't know. I feel like decks tarot knows your limitations, right? So, it might be sending you cards that you can go just based on what are in the images or just what your gut reaction is. You don't always have to know the exact um, meaning of the card to get something from it, right? So I feel like for this card would mean it'd be the judgment part of it. You know, what's something that could, what help is available that I'm overlooking? I think it would just be other people, like asking other people for help in various aspects of my life, especially at work, where, like I said, I need to delegate more and ask for help more there, but also in personal life because I'm afraid of judgment, right? Is why I would have been avoiding asking other people. So that's what I feel like that card is saying to me here. And then this actually made me choke up a little bit. It's what activity makes me forget about time. And it'd be horseback riding. So um, I used to horseback ride when I was a kid. I would guess I was a horse girl. Um, it was very expensive. I didn't have the time or the ability to put into it what probably, the people who went far in it would have been able to do. And I learned later on that when I did exchange some writing lessons for free work, and I did that for quite a while, I ended up having an instructor who taught me really bad habits. So, you know, I don't know, it just really made me think about my childhood and things that I like to do that aren't really always very realistic. But based on my reaction to it, maybe I could look into taking a little trail ride or just a little lesson. It would never be, you know, I think riding for all of the time and for pleasure and for profit would be very fun, but it's just not realistic. But maybe I could engage in it in ways that are casual and still get a little happiness out of them. They're nice. I like them more than um, other domesticated animals like dogs or cats. I just find them very pleasant. So maybe I will do something like that coming up. I could even make it seasonal. I could see if there's a trail ride that goes in an area where the leaves are changing. That could be fun. But yeah. So anyway, I think I took a lot of time because I was finding the words for all my thoughts as I went through these cards. But like I said, you know, I might just be kind of doing it silently in my head and just kind of being like, oh, yeah, definitely need to delegate at work. And then, oh, yep, spending too much time on detail tasks. I'd probably still look that one up. And then I'd look that one up as well. And then, be like, oh, yep, you need to sleep more. That's a definite yes, changing the habits. I would just be going through kind of quickly, except the ones that kind of trip me up. So, you don't have to spend a ton of time when you're doing spreads unless you want to. You can make it a quick and casual thing. I just think it's really fun and valuable to get your cards out and play with them. There's also, beyond, I think I'm going to leave these cards out so I can journal about it a little bit. Um, but there's a lot of different ways to do spreads. There's a lot of spread books, um, you know. So there's a million things you can do out there, but that's what I do. So while I have you here, I guess I'll show a couple other things I've picked up, just my shopping adventures. One thing would be these little coasters. Since it's Halloween around here, I've been kind of hitting up the TJ Maxx's to see what they've got. And aren't these adorable? I loved these. So I'm very happy to have something to put my tea on when I've got my tea at my desk. I also found these little boxes at the dollar store. It was when I was looking for those Halloween style boxes that I have in my last video. And these were in the like craft area. Okay. All right, so this is a fat, the Tarot of Mystical Moments is kind of a fat deck. Oh, well, I guess it does fit in there. So yeah, that's basically a perfect fit for those. And they come in a bunch of different colors too. And then there's a couple more I just can't reach right now. But yeah, they come in various colors, and they're not that much higher than the deck. You could put a crystal in there with them, but it's not wasting a ton of room at the top, right? They're basically the perfect size. I also found this. I think I'm going to put my travel journal and travel deck in it when I go places. Cute. And this is the other thing I picked up, and it is actually related to kind of my daily process. And this isn't necessarily only tarot related. I do find that I personally work better when I have a planner. So I've been using the Blogilates ones. I just like the layout of her stuff. But this year, since I've been more into tarot and things like that, I wanted to find one that was a little bit more witchy, magic-y, would kind of teach me something along the way as well. And I'm going to link the video in the comments, but there's a video that goes through basically a ton of the options that are out there for this year, or for this coming year, 2025. And I thought it was so helpful. As soon as I finished it, it was such a good compare contrast. I was like, okay, I know the one I want, and I ordered this and it just came in. So it came with these, like, look at the interior, that's cute. It came with these little stickers. How nice. And this is like an astrology based one, but also tarot, because if you open this up, it's got like spreads throughout it, maybe for different seasons or that sort of thing. And then I also like that each of the days mentions like moon phases and different zodiac and planets, so I can learn what those symbols are, because I don't know them. If you've watched any of my card reviews, then you'll know I'm always stumbling over the symbols. So I figured this would be a good way to learn, because if you look here, it's got like the moon phase on there, and then also different symbols that I currently don't know what they mean, but I will learn. So I figured that would be really nice. I liked this one. It's got enough space that I can use this here. It does show a week at a glance. My current one had more space for each day, but it would only show 3 days with both pages open. And I always found myself constantly like, flipping back and forth. It was so annoying. So I think I like this setup personally. You see, it does ask you for the card of the day. So if you don't journal separately, just marking what your card is in your planner might be something that would be good to do, or you could mark a little bit, like just some keywords, or maybe how it related to your day, that sort of thing. Yeah, and it's got like different journaling prompts, so, and even some spots to journal further. It's actually got quite a few of these. So the one thing I don't think it has the Sabbats on here. At least it has different astrological things, which is totally fair, because that's what the planner is focused on. So that's the only thing I feel like I'm gonna have to go and add in, because I really don't think they're in there, because I think there's at least one Sabbath, right, between January, February, and March, right? Yeah, shows how much I know. Not much. Yeah, so there's no Sabbats listed. it does give you the moon phases and things like that. So I feel like next year I'll have a much better grasp on following along with those things, and I really look forward to that. Um, so yeah, I would write a little bit in your planner, or you can have a separate journal. Whatever journal you choose is fine. I would suggest if you're just starting with tarot that you use whatever journal is at your house, whether it's ugly or cute or whatever, because I feel like people are always buying new journals and then not using them. So I would just use whatever you have at home, and then once you finish that, be like, okay, my reward for sticking with this is going to be I'll go out and buy a cute one. So I just did, my first one was something from TJ Maxx. So once I finished my first one, which was a plain one, I um, I switched to this then that I got from Barnes and Nobles. I can't really show you the entries because I do get kind of personal with my stuff when I write out, or I would feel kind of silly showing you. But usually I'll just write out what we kind of went over in this video. I'll write out um, what card I pulled that day, what the two that are balancing how I should interpret it, the oracle card. I might write out the spread and things like that. So, and that does depend again on my energy. I might just think through things, and literally having the card out does remind me throughout the day and help me remember it. I do feel like it's best to write things out, especially because it can be really fun to look back at them, I find, to see what insights you had or how things have changed if you do the same spread again in the future. But it's not necessary. I just find that journaling is really helpful for me, so I usually do engage in that sort of thing. But yeah, so I'll put a link to this planner if it's something that interests you. I'll put a link to that video actually. I won't put a link to this planner, just to that video that goes through them all so that you can compare and contrast for yourself. Because I think it's important too. It's got this pretty art throughout too. Like, look at that. How pretty is that? And then it's got a little spread here. So I loved that this was a tarot specific agenda. And yeah, so if you don't care what planner you use, you don't have to get one in October. You can just wait till the end of the year, and buy whatever's cute at the store. But sometimes the more specialized ones do sell out. Like, I just remember that because I used to use the Blogilates ones, and those would sell out. So I always ordered them when they first went to print in October. But maybe that's not the case for other things, and I'm just trained up to be panicked about ordering it. But yeah, I think that is all. I hope it was useful, and I hope you have a wonderful day.